great pleasure right now to welcome to our show today, man who has written a very interesting novel, but he's had an even more interesting life. We're joined today by Richard Marcinko, who is a retired Navy commander and has had a tremendous career in the military. We'll talk about that as well. We have a few minutes, but the name of the book is called Rogue Warrior, Domino Theory, and we're joined by Richard Marcinko today. How are you, Richard?
Morning, how you doing?
I'm doing great. I had a chance to read through the book over the last week or so. Really enjoyed it, and I know this is kind of a series of books you've written with this kind of theme, military theme, but you've lived it, haven't you?
Yeah, well, yeah, that makes it a lot easier than Clancy writing his books or being an insurance guy. It's, once you've done the dirty deed, you know how to talk about it. And in my retired life, I have a security company, and I stay close to the business, so I'm not far away from the tree that bears the fruit.
Yeah, for those not aware of our listeners, Dick was a former Navy SEAL and served in Vietnam and all over the world. But this book has that story, the theme throughout the story there. But I guess you can recall real experiences in your life to use it in fiction, right? Does that make it easier for you?
No, actually, yeah. I would say the theme of all of the novels are fiction or prediction, and this particular piece. Domino Theory is India post Mumbai, and of course I have the bad guys coming out of Pakistan, and that's where SEAL Team 6, which I founded. So as the founding father, I'm a proud papa, and they proved that the novel was correct. It is a prediction that bad guys are still up there, and that goes through. And of course these novels give me an opportunity to let readership have a kind of an idea of what I consider vulnerabilities in real world around the world in real time.
Yeah, you really can kind of almost make a commentary in a sense, because it's still happening, obviously, with India, Pakistan, nuclear warheads. How much do they have? How much are they going to build in the future? So it really is timely.
Yeah, one of my last proactive military acts was what you're going to call Red Cell, where I actually portrayed being a terrorist going around the world, and that flows into the writings of the books, and so I looked at, where, if I was a bad guy, where would I attack next? And Domino Theory, the reason I picked India, because one of the size of the country being population, the bad numbers, and the fact that there's all those different ethnic groups that are vying for their own. They in essence have about over 30. For our language, states, and each one almost has their own entity, so they don't have the same unification process that we have here that we're accustomed to in the States. And they have, furthermore, they have the caste system of the have and the have-nots, which allows somebody that wants to get in there and stir the pot. And they're making a lot of money in the modernization process, and they're buying a lot of good weapons. From the weapons side of the house, they haven't worked interoperability because they don't talk to each other, and sharing the wealth, they haven't done that yet. They're building a whole society that we outsource our techie stuff to now, and we train their doctors that some of them go back, and so they're developing at a fast pace, but they're not ready to absorb it. So they're just a plum target that, as a bad guy, I would say, if I can knock them to their knees, I can prove any other country that wants to be an upstart that they're not ready yet.
Yeah, how worried should Americans be, Dick, about this situation? I mean, is it any kind of stability at all from what, the Americans have been over there for quite a while now? Is it any better, in your opinion?
Well, it's what side of the cake you want to look at. It's better in that they're sort of working at it, but the clock just goes by too fast. It just changes so fast, and they can't adjust to it. And the biggest concern is Pakistan that is so unstable. Pakistan is a country that I can best way to describe it is it's a military that owns a government versus a government that owns a military. So when if you don't protect the nuclear weapons in Pakistan one way or another, then they're up for dibsies, and anybody can use it. And having India there with nukes and the long hatred between the countries there, it's easy to spark off anything to get nuclear flying. And my concern is when you look at Iran, that is very close to having a full launch capability, and Israel, and then India and Pakistan. Then you start looking at when somebody launches one. Me as a bad guy, I see one in a year, I'm going to throw mine at my hatest enemy. Say, shit, I thought it was coming towards me. I was just protecting myself.
Yeah.
And then you end up with 6 in a year, and just look what's happening with the fallout what Mother Nature did in Japan in terms of the soil and now the food there, and how much of the land just by power plants. So it would in essence one throw like that in the turmoil. So then Western civilization just goes through one heck of a change of life.
Seems so much simpler, didn't it, back in the 70s, maybe even the 60s, when we knew our enemy pretty much was Russia? Did it seem that?
Well, sad to say, that's the truth. The Soviet Union and the United States, we had a set of rules. We had a master plan, and so did they. They launched one. We knew who we were going to, the targets we were going to take out, and they knew the targets that they were going to take out, and everybody knew that we could do that, and they could do that, and so you had some control in terms of strategic planning. Now, it's the tail wagging the dog versus the dog wagging the tail.
Mm. Yeah, so many small factions. I mean, obviously we saw that with 9/11, the small groups that, even right down here, where we live in Sarasota, there was a group that learned how to fly those planes right here in South Florida. I mean, it's hard to keep track of all those kind of groups. And when in the old days you had the one big country, you just keep an eye on them, right?
Yeah, that means it was so much simpler. Now I like to say it's about as organized as a box of rubber bands.
Yeah. Let's get back to the book a little bit, Dick. Okay. I mean, talk a little bit about the initial part of the plot. Obviously, don't give away the ending, but give a little taste to the listeners what they can expect.
Well, it is centered around the Commonwealth Games, and that was because I was, as an outsider sitting back here, I was involved in listening to how they were going to make it safe, and that's what got me deeper involved with the country in terms of what their background is, and anytime you have a game, and for the viewers that look to the future, we got Olympics coming up 2012 over in Europe, and if you look at the activity and terrorism hitting in Europe, stand by, because the time for a bad guy to really do is in the pre-construction of any Olympic Games or any major thing where they have to make a new Coliseum and they have to make a new arena and they have to make a new Olympic swimming pool and all. That's the best time to put in your devices in the structure and tap in later. Because right now people are busy not screening concrete, not screening forms. They're busy just building things. So now's the time to look ahead. And if you consider 911, how long it took, they were willing to plan to do the 911 attack on us. So going back to the book, that's where the action starts. And in the book, I try to demonstrate the vulnerabilities of just their society and their graft and the different ethnic groups there in terms of what can go wrong and what happens, and that's everyday life there. And we're so comfortable being where we are with all the things that we have that we don't think about how vulnerable everybody else is. So the book walks right through in terms of what any band of merry men can do if they have the focus and dedication that terrorists have demonstrated they can do. And if you consider the fact that most of the terrorists that we have captured and or have done the dirty deeds, they weren't dedicated military men that had been doing it for 30 years.
Right.
They were a private in any man's army, and or they were an educated person that just had a philosophical bent that made them do what they did, but not they were working outside of their expertise when they did it.
And someone like yourself, Dick, who your job was and it still is to try and outthink that. How do you get into the mind of people like that? You don't know what's going on in their heads, right? I mean, it could be anything.
You're right.
Scary.
It is. I guess I'll have a bright future writing because this will be going on for a long time.
Well, the name of the book is Domino Theory, part of the Rogue Warrior series, and we've been talking with Richard Marcinko. You have a website you want to give people to contact you?
DickMarcinko.com. That makes it easy.
They can contact you, get the book that way. And Dick, appreciate you taking a few minutes today, and look forward to talking to you down the road. But thanks again for joining us.
Okay, thanks for having me on.